Amaka stood in the doorway, her stepmother glaring at her with cold eyes. Exhausted from the day's endless work, Amaka still clutched the clay pot Susanna had thrust into her hands. "Don't waste my time," Susanna hissed. "The Imo River isn't going to fetch itself. Go." Amaka hesitated, her heart racing. She thought of her stepmother's cruel warning. If she didn't return with water, Susanna would surely follow through on her threat. She had no choice. She adjusted the pot on her head and stepped out into the dark night. The village paths were eerily quiet under the moonlight. Amaka could hear the distant croak of frogs and the rustling of leaves, but the silence was heavier than usual. Each step she took toward the river sent a shiver down her spine. When she finally reached the banks of the Imo River, her hands trembled as she knelt to fill the pot. The moon cast an unearthly glow over the water, making it ripple with strange patterns. Suddenly, a chill wind swept across the river, and the water began to swirl. Out of the swirling waters rose the figure of Nchegbu, the deceiver and destroyer. Its body shimmered like water, its face shifting between male and female, young and old. "Who dares disturb my river at this hour?" The spirit's voice boomed. Amaka fell to her knees, unable to speak. Her heart pounded in her chest as the spirit glided closer, his glowing eyes locked on her. "You," the spirit said, his voice softer now. "You are different. Why have you come?" Amaka swallowed her fear and managed to whisper, "My stepmother sent me here. If I don't return with water, she will kill me." The spirit tilted its head, studying her. "Your fear is pure, but your courage brought you here. Few dare to face me without deceit in their hearts. Tell me, child, what kind of life do you live that your own household sends you to your death?" Amaka's eyes filled with tears as she poured out her story. The loss of her mother, her stepmother's cruelty, her father's absence, and her hope that kindness might one day change her stepmother's heart. The spirit listened in silence. When Amaka finished, Nchegbu nodded slowly. "You are honest and kind-hearted," it said. "These qualities protect you, though you may not realize it. Your mother's blessing has shielded you tonight. I will let you live, but I must give you a warning." Amaka looked up, her voice shaking. "What warning, Great Spirit?" The spirit's glowing eyes narrowed. "Your stepmother's hatred will only grow. She will not stop until her evil consumes her. But you must not fight her with anger or bitterness. Stand firm in your goodness, and in time, her wickedness will destroy her." With that, the spirit raised a hand, and the clay pot on Amaka's head filled with clear, sparkling water. The glow of the water illuminated the night, and the air around Amaka seemed lighter, less foreboding. "Go now," the spirit said. "And remember, the wicked always fall, but the innocent will rise." When Amaka returned home, the house was silent. Susanna was waiting by the doorway, arms crossed, a look of disbelief on her face. "You're back," she sneered. "And with water?" Amaka nodded and gently placed the pot on the ground. The water sparkled brightly, casting a glow that filled the room. Susanna's cruel smirk faded into confusion and fear. "What is this?" she demanded, pointing at the pot. Amaka spoke calmly, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "The spirit of the river filled the pot for me. It said the wicked who harm the innocent will never prosper." Susanna's face turned pale, but she quickly masked her fear with anger. "Nonsense!" she snapped. "Get out of my sight!" Amaka obeyed, retreating to her small corner of the house. But that night, Susanna could not sleep. She tossed and turned, haunted by Amaka's words. The next morning, Susanna seemed restless. Her anger bubbled over during breakfast, and she snapped at her own children, something she rarely did. Her youngest child, Junior, clung to Amaka and whispered, "Mama is scared. I heard her talking to herself all night." Amaka hugged him tightly. "Don't worry, little one. Everything will be fine." But Susanna's fear soon turned into paranoia. That evening, she called Amaka into the kitchen again, her eyes wild. "You think you're clever, don't you?" she snarled. "I'll show you who's in charge." Before Amaka could respond, Susanna grabbed another pot and shoved it into her hands. "Go back to the river. If you truly met the spirit, let it feel this pot too." Amaka's heart sank. She knew Susanna was testing her, trying to find a way to discredit her. But she also remembered the spirit's warning. Without a word, she took the pot and headed toward the river once more. This time, the journey felt even heavier. The path seemed darker and the air was colder. When Amaka reached the river, she knelt again and called out softly, "Great Spirit, I am here once more." The water rippled and Lemon Chegbu rose again, its form glowing brighter than before. "You have returned," the spirit said, its voice curious. "Why?" "My stepmother does not believe me," Amaka replied. "She has sent me back to prove myself." The spirit's expression darkened. "Her arrogance knows no bounds. But I warned you, do not fight her with anger. This will be the last time I help you. Take this as a gift of patience, not proof." The spirit waved its hand, and the second pot filled with even brighter water than the first. The light from the water cast shadows across the trees and lit up the night. When Amaka returned home, Susanna's disbelief turned to fury. She could not deny the evidence before her, but her heart grew darker with envy and anger. As the days passed, Susanna's paranoia consumed her. She began lashing out at everyone, even her own children, until the villagers took notice. People began to talk, and Obina eventually heard the whispers during one of his visits home. He confronted Susanna, who, in her panic, tried to blame Amaka. But when Obina turned to his daughter, her calm and honest demeanor revealed the truth. Obina sent Susanna away, vowing to protect Amaka and give her the life she deserved. There's more to happen next.